community, your brand is either scaling with AI or getting left behind. Today's guest, Leah Nurik, is at the forefront of AI branding, showing leaders how to automate influence without losing authenticity. Welcome to the Go4CEO channel. How are you, Leah?
Good. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome, awesome. Well, look, I always look forward to hearing, entrepreneurs, CEOs, founders of companies, and coming onto the Go4CEO channel. We're always looking at, well, hey, how did this person start the business? What was some of the ideation background? And, it's kind of the impact of where this came from Brandi AI. So tell us a little bit about the back of the story. And, were you a corporate person, an entrepreneur all your life? What's going on there?
Well, I started in the agency business in PR, mostly in software. And then I worked for a variety of software companies directly, doing marketing, product management. And then I was in the mobile space before mobile was really a thing. And I worked for Motorola Enterprise. I did go-to-market strategy. And then I started my own firm, my own agency, and I ran that for a number of years. And so about, 18 months ago or so, we were talking to clients and I was talking to companies and we were talking about the impact on marketing activities like PR, content production, obviously digital, and how that was affecting how the brands were not only positioned, but how often they were coming back in the search results for this new kind of search paradigm within the LLMs, whether it was ChatGPT, Perplexity, or even, with the start of those AI overviews. And so it really piqued my interest, and I started trying to figure out why it was that brands were positioned the way they were. And then with the help of some other folks, we kind of cracked the code to a certain extent. And then based upon that, we brought some developers together, some technology leaders, folks with a ton of domain expertise from very large agencies and within ad tech, and we made Brandi.
All right. Well, look, that's a cool name. Obviously, one thing that sometimes is very intriguing is a little bit of a different positioning for the branding, i.e., Brandi. Was there any specific reason for that name? Was it just kind of something that came out of, maybe life experiences? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think that we wanted, the product, it started really from a true mission of trying to help marketers. That's one of the things I think that's really cool and ended up with the product being as complete and flexible as it is because it was built by domain experts who really wanted to solve a problem. I mean, it really was that. It wasn't just, hey, let's have a software company and make some money. And it really did come from an authentic place of solving this problem and empowering marketers in this new age of AI driven search. Our brand is very approachable. It is very mission driven, that kind of thing. So I think that the name came from brand intelligence originally. And the name itself, Brandi, I think kind of makes it fun and approachable and also kind of speaks to the mission of marketers as, Brandi's kind of your friend versus just a tool. It's a
Yeah.
friendly platform. So,
No, that makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, obviously, some companies do lend itself to the name being something very specific and the way it's driven into the marketplace. Some other ones could be Google, like what the heck's a Google? So, those types of things, right?
well,
So,
nowadays it's a verb, it's a noun, it's completely it's shifted the entire way that we talk. So now we all know what Google is. I use it as a verb all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, right. We've all adopted
Yeah.
the sense of it, right? So, well, neat. A lot of times, being on the Go4CEO channel, we love to hear the stories, right? And kind of the understanding as an entrepreneur, where this comes from, and your background is very, centric to what you've built here, and then you've collaborated with a ton of other, heads of this thought pattern and things that are going on, but it's fairly new. So when you think about kind of where we're at in the state of AI and what you've built with Brandi, what are two or three different things that are specifically deliverables that you guys are achieving right now in the market?
Well, so it's really not only helping brands see how they're doing in AI search. So if someone goes on to ChatGPT or even the Google now, even with Google, you'll get an AI summary more than
Hmm.
80% of the time coming back. So it's not just how are you doing today? How often are you coming back in the searches that are most relevant within what we like to call the market universe? So all the brands that are either competitive or tangential to a customer's business. But it's also, what do you do about it? Because it is very different than traditional search. So you could say that AI search is an evolution of traditional SEO. And I think that that's a valid way to do it, to talk about it, but it is a very different approach. So we are really partnering with customers and brands, large Fortune 500 and mid-sized companies to really help them in this early time of AI-driven search to maximize their presence now, but set the foundational groundwork for what that means going forward. So, and everybody's going to have to do it. I mean, it just is what it is. And, I was talking to somebody and they said, I think AI is a flash in the pan. And I said, okay, that's great. Come talk to us in 6 months when you're not showing up anywhere and you haven't your revenue is in the turlet. So but basically that's what we're trying to do is help companies maximize their brand in AI search results, uh, monitor how they're positioned, help them to define their markets within the context of AI searches, and then set a foundational groundwork that will take them into the future of this new paradigm around AI driven search.
So you mentioned marketers, kind of being a target, and then also you mentioned working with some Fortune 500 companies and the like. So
Mhm.
is the end user of Brandi the actual marketers that are within those spaces working with those, or are you kind of the back end analytics? I'm just trying to understand that so we all can
Yeah.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's a SaaS platform. You can log into it. It has rich dashboards. It does do analytics, but also has a variety of different tools built within the platform around optimizing for content and technical structure for your owned content so that you can maximize how often you're coming up. But it's also used, there's several different types of marketers or people within the organization who utilize the product. So you would have content creators who are going in and identifying what types of content, where the gaps are in the market, what's performing well, what isn't
Mm.
performing well, and it gives the guidance. It does not write with AI, but it tells you kind of here is the structure that you should follow in order to maximize your chances of being found, read, summarized, and returned in search results. So we have content folks in there. We also have a ton of PR agencies and PR and comms pros who are in the product because it's not just your own domain that affects whether or not you're appearing in AI search, but there within a market universe, there's all these different credible and authoritative sources that contribute to how your brand is positioned. So that changes based upon whether it's B2C or B2B, or if it's, health software versus running shoes versus, cars and electric vehicles. So all of those things are different. So we do have PR folks who are looking in the product to identify the domains that maybe they need to reach out to for earned media. Then we have programs people who are in the product looking at what are those domains as well? What kind of advertising or paid programs can I do? Syndicated content, peer review sites, that kind of thing. And then we have digital people, obviously, who were the traditional SEO and performance marketing people who are in the product to see monitoring search like they solely used to monitor, SEO. Now they're monitoring GEO or AEO, as some people call it. And then we have product marketing in there because you can imagine that if you have answers from all of the AI, all the LLMs and all the searches that are relevant to your market universe in there, and you can see how you're positioned against your competitors. We have power users that are in product marketing and product management that are in there looking at competitive differentiation. How do they stack up? Well, how is their product positioned? Is brand right? Sometimes, you'll get a response, and it'll say that it'll have the wrong brand. So if you're like a
Hmm.
PE platform company and you've made, 10, 15 acquisitions over the past 5 years, maybe you'll see in there, oh, that's not the right brand. That's the brand from 4 years ago. So you can identify where is that coming from, reach out, have that fixed. And then we also have a sentiment capability. So you can really see for your core brand pillars, whether it's price, support, quality, data privacy, effectiveness for running shoes, whatever it is. You can also see how the AI is positioning you and score that and watch it change over time. So it's really a cross-functional and cross-organizational product with lots of different users. So it's pretty cool because I think, again, we were really trying to build a product that solved a problem for marketers. And to be honest, it's a new disruptive space. I don't know if we really knew in the beginning what we were building or what would impact. And so we really authentically built something that we would want to use as marketers across that value chain, ad tech people, content people, PR people, product marketing, digital. And now those are the users that are in the product. And they're also perpetually iterating with us. And our customers are awesome. They're one of the reasons we've been able to build this flexible platform because they are constantly iterating with us and it's impacting the roadmap. And that's really cool to see people get excited when they request something and it's a collaborative process to build something that's, I think, going to shift the marketing industry in general. So it's been a
Hmm.
busy 18 months, but we've been having a lot of fun for sure.
So there's a couple directions I'd love to take, this business, this side of things. I'm a commercial banker day to day, working with
Yep.
middle market companies. And, it's always interesting the investments that they make, right? At certain points of their business cycle, to go from 5 million in top line revenue to 25 million is kind of a little bit different tweak and process and investments that you have to make from either people or what have you, right? So SaaS is an interesting one because from what I know, you're always investing, you're always changing. So you talked about right now your clients giving you feedback that then allows your team to kind of implement that next little twist of it. Can you go through that process, right? Because obviously as a tool that marketers are using then to help their clients, you're always learning fast. So it kind of keeps you, I guess, nimble or, is this a different scenario for you? Are you feeling like it's a day-to-day new thing or well, how are you reacting to that, those changes?
Um, that is such a great question. So, it's in an innovative industry, right? And specifically in SaaS, you have to temper, right? Okay, here's this. You could build a million things in a brand new market, and you have to prioritize based upon customer impact, retention, incremental revenue, new industry development. At the same time, you need to do that, and you also need to make sure that the the way that the product functions for the user doesn't shift on a daily or weekly basis.
Hmm.
Because if it does, then you're not going to have good retention. You're going to have escalating support costs, and you're going to, have frustrated customers, and nobody wants that, right? So basically, you have to, what we do is we do a lot of product meetings, a lot of product strategy meetings. We do prioritization within our roadmap, and there is a rubric that our CTO and product management leads have put together that weigh certain things. And, I will tell you, I'm sure you can imagine that, people are extremely passionate about the features, and there's some heated discussions and it's full of passion about what should be at the top of that list. Because you can't do everything. So, and you have to take all those things into consideration. But so, you have to have really great engineering leaders and product management. And we are lucky enough. Our CTO is a 5-time successful senior engineering leader who's been through growth
Mhm.
companies, several times, and for his entire career. So, he's very confident and he has this methodology that he can follow. So that's good. That's how we do it. I hope that answered your question.
No, yes, it did. And it's led me to then, from a leadership perspective, which we learn a lot from our guests on the Go4CEO channel. You're talking about a CTO that you brought onto the team, and they always say, right, when you launch something new, one of the most important things is who's on your team, right? Who have you recruited? Who do you know? Investors, if that's what you had, or if you self-funded it, it's always good to have every dollar being spent the right ways. So you talked about the CTO. Tell us about that kind of C-suite that you've organized, and from a leadership standpoint, how are you allowing them to kind of have their own freedom, but then see into your mind as the founder of the company?
Yeah, so I'm co-founder, so our CTO is also a founder.
Oh, okay.
And I think about our leadership team as, founding partners too. They might have come in later in that thing, but they really are partners in our growth and they have that vested interest. I I myself am believe with leadership that you have to lean in completely to your people and you have to trust them unless you have a reason not to.
Mm,
So our head of customer support, it comes from a variety of SaaS companies and within ad tech and martech, and he has extensive experience. He has so much more experience than I would have in managing customers and process. So unless anybody gives you a reason not to doubt them, you have to listen, ask those questions. I think it's role of a CEO to to really prod and probe. So it not to make all the decisions for everybody, but as part of those conversations, and that collaborative feedback to unearth where there's any risks and make sure everybody knows what the risks are, what the upside is, and so that there is complete transparency across the C-suite. I think that those are the organizations that tend to do very well and grow quickly. And also, those are also the type of teams and cultures that have higher retention because they are happy and they're happy in their own space in what they own and those people, and also they're able to apply their passion of what they've built over their careers, which brings satisfaction and drives more passion and more innovation. So that's my opinion, and that's how I've always led or attempted to lead in my career. Having run two companies, that's always kind of where I tend to land. Where do you land? What do you
Now,
think?
it's interesting. I sold my business in '09 and got into commercial banking. And, having now worked with hundreds of businesses and interviewed people on podcasts and stuff like that, I lean towards what you just said is ultimately you can't grow if you feel like you're a solopreneur and never want to become a business owner. Keep on doing it all yourself. Keep on having to have control of everything. But to become a business owner is exactly the way you just described it with your background and your experience. You brought in the CTO for a reason, right? You brought in another C-suite person or your main management team for a reason. So allow them to do that and then have checkpoints, right? Have opportunities to be able to connect with them. I will say sometimes it gets the string gets a little bit too long and then you forget to pull it back, right? To see kind of where they're at. So checkpoints and assessing where they're at and what's going on is certainly a big deal to me. And from what I've heard from other great leaders on here. So I appreciate the feedback and the way that you shared that because, it's still a fairly new business. You said it's about 18 months.
Yeah, well, actually, that's when we kind of started, yeah, thinking about it and building. But we only officially launched. We were selling kind of in stealth mode and seeding the market
Okay.
under NDA and beta customers, and then we officially publicly launched actually in October.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so it is a new business. It's a very disruptive new space, and it's moving very quickly. So it's been a ride so far that I'm hoping is going to continue for a while. A lot of fun.
No. Well, and it's exciting, right? I mean, what other things can help you wake up in the morning so excited to like, oh, okay, here's a new challenge, or here's something new, here's a different way to look at it. And like you said, there's a lot of collaboration between your current clientele that you've brought up, and they're starting to feed you feedback pretty quickly, right? So adjusting that, and like you said, having meetings now. It's a beautiful background. I'm going to switch it up just a little bit here that you have there. So, do you work a lot from home? Is this something that you have a lot of remote leadership and people out in the marketplace? How did you start to put the framework together of this team, and how are you guys working remotely or on site at an office?
Yeah, I mean, post pandemic, one of the things I realized in running the business I ran before this, I was in the agency world, and with an agency, you're only good as the people, only as good as the people you have, which I guess is true for everything, but
Hmm.
it's a services business. So for so long, trying to struggle, and I live in the Washington D.C. area, trying to hire people, even though it was a tech focused agency. It was hard because this isn't a huge hotbed, although people will kind of say it is. AOL started here, and Nextel was here, but it's not like Boston or San Francisco or New York with a huge, SaaS and
Hmm.
technology sector. So we struggled to find great people. The company did very well, and we did find good people. But during the pandemic, well, it kind of opened my eyes. Wow, we can hire people all over the country that are fantastic, who have ton of technical technology background. So, with Brandi, I would love to go into the office to collaborate. I kind of miss it. I really do. But we do have people all over, and we do have people here. So we have one of those offices that we can go in a few times a week. So sometimes we do that for meetings and that kind of thing. But then we've got everybody up on the board, the folks who are in North Carolina or the people who are in New York. Um, but yeah, so we're kind of partially remote, and thanks for the compliments on my background.
Well, you got to
I,
make it a place where you enjoy, right? And it's interesting. There's a lot of, I still have my holiday stuff up here.
I
So,
know,
but
I noticed that.
I usually have our Chicago skyline because I'm a big, Chicago homer. Can't believe the Bears lost. We were almost there to repeat
Yeah.
40 years ago would have been New England Patriots against the Bears again. So, but I digress. Anyway, so no, but that's, environment and thinking about, your daily life and especially when you're going to have a remote team, like you have to have a feng shui type environment where you're at, or else your energy could be low, or you as the leader aren't seeing and thriving off of energy of other people and you giving energy. It's a little bit different on the screen, right? So I could see where that can be an issue for some, but you've developed that, and it's so cool that you learned through the pandemic some different strategies. So I do want to go into another area which is near and dear to my heart. And by the way, you said Nextel. It brought total memories to. I was a Nextel distributor with the
Oh,
walkie-talkie phones. I remember Nextel had the first iPhone. It was called the i1000. So I don't know if you remember that offhand. It was a flip phone that it got into the white collar market because it used to just be a blue collar product back in the day. So anyway,
man, you and I could chat extensively about mobile. I worked for Motorola, and
oh,
I actually
iDen
tested out.
technology.
Yeah, I tested out the first Windows mobile device
Oh,
that
okay.
was built with uh, Google. No, 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 no. It was the first one for Motorola. So the first, I forget what they used to call them, the Windows one. And then I tested out the first Android device that was made. So Motorola used to make Android devices, and I had the beta version of it
Wow.
um, that I walked around. I think it's still in my kitchen drawer. So I was walking around with the Windows one for a while, and then the Android one. So yeah, that was a wild time. Can you
Yeah,
imagine
no.
now? But here we are with AI. It's the kind of similar. So first it was the web, then it was mobility, and now here we are with AI. So been lucky to be in my career to span all three of those things. So it's exciting.
No, and it's cool, right? Because you could speak to it, you've actually done it, and now you're teaching people and through even a new business, you're teaching them from the front, right? So, in that development of everything that you've done. So, one area I wanted to get into, just because, like I said, I have a little bit of a passion for it, right? From a capital standpoint, for SaaS, all I've ever heard is it takes a ton of money to get through this process, right? Of development, changes, iterations. So, what does that look like? Just to kind of give us a glimpse. Was this something that you initially self-funded? Did you bring in some investors? Have you looked at, VC, or angel type, money? Where are you at in that process of this business, especially now, 6 or 7 months or a few months into the launch?
Yeah, so we did self-fund, and we've had some, a lot of early success. So where we are right now is we're in that self-funding process. We've, been lucky enough that we were able to do that. And now, we are scaling. So we'll take a look at what you were just talking about, and we're in some conversations to see what that next rev looks like. But yeah, these things can be challenging. You have to get creative, all that kind of stuff. But we'll see what's next. There's a lot of options out there, and we're in those conversations to see what makes sense for us in this next stage. The I worked with hundreds of SaaS founders and CEOs over my career, and I would say, the number one thing they say is don't take the money if you don't need the money, right?
Mm.
So right, we don't necessarily need the money yet. So, but I think we probably will and so we'll get there. We'll figure it out.
Well, and it's interesting, right? So, someone GoFCO community, if you're a founder, especially SaaS or these types of businesses where you need a good amount of capital to burn off, as Leah just talked about, there is this scenario where you could dilute yourself too quickly, right? Or you haven't positioned your organization, the actual entity, in a way that you can still have a lot of power even as the dilution happens. There's great stories out there of Zuckerberg, right, and I think Bezos and all these guys. They set up their entities the right way so that even as they dilute it, because I think Bezos only owns like 16% of Amazon, but he still has all the power, right, and all the direction stuff. So it's an interesting scenario. As you get bigger and you get into the multi-millions and the hundreds of millions and the billions, hopefully, that you build here with Brandi, it'll be an interesting, dynamic of kind of how you situate that. So, give me 1 second here. Ooh, why is this? Ooh. All right. So look, we were talking about funding and just getting a chance to understand, how you dilute, hopefully not too much, right? To keep the positioning and the strength of what you've been able to create with your co-founder. But if you think about right now, the burn rate and where you're at, just position wise, money, if you think about debt or if you think about investors, what would be kind of your initial thoughts of direction in that sense?
I think probably we would. I mean, there's lots of options, right? So you can do a safe, you can do like convertible notes, you can do all that. I don't really know where we'll go with that right now. I think it depends upon the partners that we choose, and even if we choose a partner. So I don't know if I really have a ton to add to that conversation right now because of the way that we're structured and
Okay.
kind of what because there's so many different options, and it would depend upon, whether it's what kind of institutional money that we would get, whether we would get it from a large, tech company partner, or if we would go to traditional VCs, or if we would go to family offices or PE. So I probably can't offer too much on that side right now.
No, no worries. And look, it's a scenario where you have to adjust just like you're doing on a daily basis to reconfigure the SaaS and kind of make it more amiable to where you're heading. So from a leadership standpoint, you've shared a lot of stuff here and how you think and how you process these. Your partner, are you more on the operations side and he's on, or like let's say the CTO, on the operations as well? Like who is handling business development and who's handling more operations and day to day?
Yeah, so my co-founder really leads technology and product management, And then I'm more customer facing, sales, marketing, and product marketing. So, because of the experience that I have from a domain standpoint within marketing, we work across, to have conversations about product direction. Product in every SaaS company that I've ever worked in, there's always a struggle, or challenge, I guess, in how product um, leads into engineering. I think that we're doing pretty well with overcoming those traditional challenges of technology priorities with feature functionality that's customer impactful. So, I handle really the customer facing marketing, sales, product marketing, support, and all finance and operations. And our CTO is quite busy building really flexible, secure, um, rapidly evolving product. So,
Okay. So I'll take it towards a customer experience. And at the end of our interview, we always usually go through CEO, right? Because client experience, engagement, and operational excellence. But to stay on the same, thought pattern of what your day-to-day actually literally looks like, when a client or a marketer is out there, they find your brand, they find the understanding of kind of what it could bring to their agency or even the content producers out there and makers. What does that look like right now? Is it you and a team? Is it right now just initially you bringing in that thought of, okay, hey, they have an interest. What does it actually look like for them to look at Brandi as an option?
yeah. Yeah. So basically, hopefully they listen to your podcast and then they go to the website, right?
Conversion,
So
baby.
they conversion. Yeah. So they'll find us through AI. We are an AI optimization platform, so we do get a lot of inbound traffic from coming up in AI search results, or referral traffic from the AI models, or they listen to your podcast and they come to the website and they convert. We do have a playbook and a pretty clear funnel of touch points throughout the sales process. And then we do have other people, besides me selling. So, the way we go to market is we do have, a higher volume mid-market business that requires few touch points. And then we do have a pretty solid enterprise business and a distributor or referral network of global agencies all over the world. So, with them, those are more of high touch relationships that I own a lot of those relationships. And then we have folks focused on kind of the mid market sales process, which is, higher volume.
Mm. Now, when you started to kind of develop the market, right, you said there's been a different flow of types of clients. But, you also, as a SaaS, can be, very broad. From a day-to-day perspective in this new, 6, 12, 18 months that you're going through for this initial launch, is there a day-to-day routine of what you're looking at? Are you looking to pick the top leads that come in through your process? Is it, specific companies that you identified from previous relationships that you're still trying to nurture and share the vision of Brandi? Where are you at with that cycle, especially in this early
No,
start?
no, I mean we have a extensive network of global network of agencies that we work with. And so, those folks are warm. Their clients are warm, or their new clients are warm that are coming in. And then we do have cold leads that, I mean, I'm calling them cold because nobody knows them, but they're
Mhm.
just coming to the website. So the word is getting out. So we do have a whole qualification, sales funnel that goes through those different touch points and qualification to see if they would be a good customer. The other thing is that in a disruptive market, you want volume, but you also, I mean, you were talking about, we weren't talking about valuation, but we were kind of skirting around it.
Mhm.
Um, you want retention, you want renewals, you want multi-year deals, like that. Those are the things for a SaaS company that are key to determine valuation and success of the company. So those KPIs are, really important. So, there are some more, I would say, like commoditized tactical markets, maybe not necessarily in our space, although there's like 100 of companies trying to position around this. I was talking to somebody, they were saying like, there's kids dropping out of college, trying to build an AI visibility platform, this kind of thing, right? So it's kind of like a massive rush. And I think we've been able, through the way that we've been managing our go to market, to actually kind of bubble up and be very strategic and develop a brand that is pretty strong and credible and does bring people in. But when you're looking at commoditized SaaS products, how many of these emails do you get a day around in different markets, or even just like a consumer app of, hey, here's a free trial, right? Sign up for a
Mm-hmm.
free trial. Now, we don't do that because, one, it's a land grab, right? And you're going to have churn rates that are insane. So you don't want that for your SaaS business. And you also don't want to be distracted by trying to manage a process and operation that is this kind of land grab, what I could think is kind of nonsense. It's just
Mm-hmm.
nonsense. Like, okay, now the operational levers of price, on what of cost around running something like that are insane. For what? For a conversion rate or an adoption rate of less than 10%, because you know how it goes. I mean, again, I've worked in SaaS for my whole career, and so there was this whole freemium craze, right, back in the
Mm-hmm.
day. And so, or here's a free trial. So you would get people to sign up, and then they would just never engage and use the product. So because they're busy. So I myself don't want to have churn rates. I want to focus on retention, and I also want to focus on having customers that are really good partners, because in these new markets, if you are approaching running a company as, I just want to make a gazillion dollars, that the authenticity of that, of building product that's impactful, is it's just not there. So it's if my main goal is to make a gazillion dollars and to get this valuation, then and that is your only goal, you're probably not going to make the best product. And so I think that if we do have an approachable brand, we have great product, we have good customers who we truly see as partners and not as commodities for the impact of our business, that is where we will have great success. Now, in this early stage. Now, what it looks like afterwards, when you reach high growth and like extremely high growth and market domination, and then what does that look like as your go to market shifts? Who knows, right? That's down the path. And companies who continue to grow and make money and introduce new products, they have to shift their approach. But for our approach today, in an early space, we're focused on finding the right customers that are going to stick around, that are open to collaborating, and they're open to annual contracts and multi-year deals, and that they're looking for a partner for the long term who they know is going to have their back and do the research they need in order to continue to evolve in this AI first era, where the models change, right? So if you're not authentically focused on developing a product that actually meets the needs that you're selling to your customers for, then you're from a business standpoint, you're done before you even start, and from a ethics standpoint, you know you're also in the toilet. So that's just not how we run the business.
No, and I love it. You've positioned yourself as high end quality, right? Real relationships. You're leveraging what you had as experiences before with the C-suite that you have, your co-founder. You guys are integrated in this industry. So you're not just looking for the number. You don't want your CAC to go crazy, right? And your retention to be horrible. So it's a combination of things that you have to manage. But I love the way that you're talking about this, because if your area of business is being commoditized, as you've shared a few times, then how do you differentiate, right? I'm a commercial banker, right, by trade. And I always say, hey, look, I've owned my own business, I've sold my own business. And now I got into this industry because I want to help the small to medium sized business owner. I want to help you go from 5 million to 25 million or 25 to $100 million company. And it's interesting, where you position value and how speed could be, right? Because I could imagine your SaaS could just say, or could lay on a website and market itself and implement itself. And I would think, right, and I'm not the most techie guy, but I'm just kind of thinking in my mind, you're taking human elements, bringing them into what is an automated type scenario and bringing value, and then using that relationship that you build and these clients to slowly but surely build that credibility and that high value. So, is that a good depiction of kind of what you just shared?
Yeah, I mean, we're not a services company. We are product. So, it, there's there's not a services element of
Mm,
what we do. It is 100% subscription product. But yeah, I mean, it's the way the way that you live your life in general, right? Of trying to do the best that you can, and if you have to go to work every day and you're you're trying to trick and do not do the and you're just focused on the almighty dollar and not actually on impacting an industry. I myself, that would be extremely unfulfilling for me. And I think that everybody on our team, like culturally, who we are, that would also be unfulfilling. I can honestly tell you that when we look to hire and bring folks on, we are looking for people who, and we have assembled people who are extremely passionate about making stuff that is impactful, that is going to shift the industry. So we live and breathe that. We have our core pillars of our culture and of what we're trying to do. And when you're in a place where you're trying to make a decision about what the next step is this customer the right customer? I mean, we do sell into enterprise. How is it, and is this customer the right customer for us
mm,
in this early market? Because as you're growing a business, you have to have that core customer community that is, committed to these long-term relationships and collaborating because, you have all this domain expertise on the team and you think you know what the product should be. And that I think that's kind of how we got to where we were because we did have that domain expertise. But we're not working every day in a large consumer products company that has 130 brands, right? So what are the challenges of those marketers? So that kind of depth of understanding, you can't know it all, and the humility of of a leadership team and product development team to know that they don't know it all, and to lean on those customers. I think customers appreciate that, and I think our team appreciate our customers. So yeah, that's how we're really trying to build the company. That's how we built our agency. It's different, my agency originally, but it's different with a product company, and yeah, that's what we're trying to do. So
No, I love the authenticity. You can feel the passion that you authentically are talking through in your mind. You're feeling it through your heart, and then you're expressing it right now. Hey, here's what Brandi really is, right? We're working with our clients. We're being selective. We're not going rush. We're not just looking for some sort of, intrinsic exit that all of a sudden evaluation could be a bubble of, 10 times what you actually should be worth. You're saying, hey, I'm in this for the long haul. And people are going to see, one of the podcasts that you're doing here, which is on the Go4CEO channel, that authenticity of understanding how to grow the right way. And there's a lot of in and outs in most industries, right? People see opportunity, gold rush. Hey, let's get in, let's get out, and let's exit. And that's their philosophy. That's okay. But I love the way that you just expressed that and the passion behind it. So, when it comes to, we've talked about leadership, we've talked about a little bit about funding, startup, now, your specific way of looking at client acquisition and journey, those types of things. what operationally are you having a struggle with? I always like to understand, right, those beginning stages, 6 to 12 to 18 months. It always seems like there's, two or three little hiccups that have come up, in this first launch of 4 or 5 months. What are some struggles that have come up that maybe you didn't forecast before?
So, we talked about leaning into, and trusting your team. I think that from a sales standpoint, just for me, it's hard for me to let go at the because you said I am quite passionate about what we were doing here. So I want to be have my head and my fingers in every single deal, and I want to talk to the customers and I want to hear their feedback. And you know, you just can't clone yourself, right? So you have to. So I would think that's a bit of a struggle, caring too much
Mhm.
about growth and sales and finding those right customers, and so that can be difficult at this stage because we are having uh I mean it we're growing very quickly. I mean it's kind of nuts. So every day they're getting all these we have all these people coming to the website and want demos and they want to talk. And you see the brands that are coming in, and it's Fortune 500 recognizable brands that want us to do RFIs and RFPs. And it's a lot. So so
Mhm.
you have to find the right people. And also in early markets, when you have founder led sales, you have to make that leap, and you have to have that playbook. We've been lucky enough that we've found partners who are in the community of the SaaS community, who, from a sales and BD standpoint, are helping us to determine from all their experience that the right playbook, and then we're bringing people on directly for sales to help with that. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying growth. It's just crazy right now. This is such a hot space, and
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy because I worked with so many SaaS companies over the years, and it first world problems, right? First class problems. Okay, I have too many leads, too many inbound requests to deal with, and I have to catch up, right? But it's SaaS companies don't normally have that problem this early on. It's usually the other way around. So that was something I didn't expect in starting a
Mhm.
software company, just from having worked with over 500 SaaS companies in my career. I didn't expect there to be explosive growth. I kind of expected it to be like, okay, gonna go have to knock on a million doors, Leah,
Mhm.
in order to make this thing happen. But we may have been in the right place at the right time, mission focused on impacting an industry. So that's been challenging. I would say, just transparently, that's been difficult, but those are first class problems to have. So we'll get there.
No, I love it. And like again, authentically, you could feel the passion come through the screen here, and how you're feeling in this startup stage. And I'm sure maybe some sleepless nights of like, hey, 30 more opportunities came in. How do I decipher that? What's the funnel for that? Do we put some sort of client journey experience up front so that they can kind of dilute themselves, et cetera, et cetera. And I wish we had more time. I'd probably go another hour with you just even on that piece of it, of that client experience. But so as we wrap up our interviews, we usually go through CEO, right? For Go4CEO is client experience, which you kind of touched on. You have a lot of passion in that. So I'm going to be very interested to hear what your value proposition is just from right now. And it's, early stages, but what that looks like from a client experience right now. So what does that look like, let's say in a 30 or 60-second wrap up of value proposition for a client looking at Brandi AI and what they could expect?
Yeah. So for our customers, if you when you become a Brandy customer, you're getting a partner to help you navigate this new AI search, a product partner, in order to do that. So, our customer support is very good. This is a market that people are trying to figure out, what does this look like for their brands and their marketing workflows over the next, into forever now, or at least
Mhm.
for until there's another disruptive thing like search or AI. So when you become a Brandi customer, you're not out in the cold. You have, a wealth of knowledge in our knowledge base, as well as access, to our customer support team, and a true partner in helping you navigate what this next space looks like, this next phase of AI driven search. So I would say that that's basically what customer experience looks like for Brandi.
I love it. I love it. So, as one of the co-founders, I always ask E for engagement. I used to talk about employee engagement, but E is all encompassing. So engagement, when I ask this question, think about how do you like people to engage with you? And it could be personal and business. We're obviously on a business podcast, but what is the way that Leah likes to connect with her C-suite and her management team? What is the way that you like to go deeper? What do you bring clients to retreats? Are you a dinner person? Like that's what I mean by engagement. So hopefully that'll give you an insight of what you could share from an engagement standpoint. What does that mean like and look like for you?
I like dinner. I'm a big dinner person. I like food. Um, I am pretty passionate about food, and I like sharing food. Might be my Italian background. But the way that I like to engage is I I like to I like to be surrounded by people that are smarter than I am. I like to learn from people. I'd love it if people learned from me, but I like to sit in silence and watch and listen to people engage and then probe
Mm.
what that means. I think that life in general, and just for work and personal, is an evolution of perpetual education. And so I like my brain, I like to learn things. So that's what gets me jazzed to get up in the morning. And I am learning a lot running a SaaS company. But that's what I like to do. I like to kind of sit in silence and listen to the team, so I can learn. And then so that's how I like to engage. I, like I said, I'd love it if people learned from me too. But yeah, I think that's how I like to engage. And I do, besides also learning from people, I do like to go beyond just work, and to truly understand what people's priorities are in their lives, for work-life balance, and to make sure that you know you can't only be singularly focused on success, and that you have to that people find value in the work that they do, in the totality of who they are. So I think that with your executive team and your team members in general, and your customers, you want to kind of know something about them, and just connect with them on a emotional and personal level, because that just makes your job and your day more fun, to know that there is a human connection in those relationships.
Well, I love it. One of the reasons, in the pandemic, I started the Go4CEO channel. Commercial banker, I was thinking, right, what are different ways that I could have CEOs, founders, and not just call them or be introduced sometimes, obviously through COI networks and stuff, but have them come on, talk about real situations, go through the mindset, the paradigm shifts that are happening real time. And this new AI space, I've had about seven of you in this industry right now. And it's been really cool to kind of hear your guys' perspective, but it still always goes back to Leah, Italian, food, love, like connection, and just bringing you into that co-founder scenario and mentality. So, by the way, I've got all three of my daughters and I and my wife. We watch Master Chef and Next Level Chef. So, a little recommendation of a show that is all about different style. I'm learning so much
Okay.
because I like to cook a ton, and it's taught me a ton about just reducing and flavors and how to sear meat better and all that stuff. So
Okay.
I'll leave you with that nugget. So
Yeah, I would just say, just about, we were talking about pandemic. During the pandemic, the one thing that kept me going, because I would wake up every morning and I would just start thinking about what kind of gourmet meal I was going to make. And then
nice.
I signed up for masterclass for what's the guy's name? The guy from French Laundry. He did a masterclass. I learned like a
Oh,
ton of
okay.
stuff from him, and then I would
Okay.
make that food. So So I feel you on that, the food stuff.
Nice, nice. So, all right. So, last one is operational excellence, and I was, your co-founder is a little bit maybe more on this space, but I'm sure you can glean a ton of knowledge and wisdom with it to us, for us. And operational, being an AI SaaS company, are you guys also using what, could be Monday.com or, some other tools? What CRM products are you using? Go high level or these types of things. I want to don't put it in your mouth. I mean, I want to share with you, you share with us, like, what are you guys doing for operational excellence from Brandi AI positioning standpoint from your day to day?
Yeah, so we definitely have we rely heavily on HubSpot for a ton of our infrastructure around sales, customer support, marketing. And they have a ton of integrations into different financial systems and like contract management systems. So we use that. That's like our core. And then we're a Google workspace
Mm,
for sure. And uh, I've actually never been a Google workspace user. So for me, I struggled a little bit for the first few weeks of doing that, but now it's just okay. I don't know why I didn't shift the other company over to this. Like now it's just, so great. And then we wouldn't be a SaaS company if we didn't have Slack, right? So we're just
mm.
slacking, Slack all the time. So Slack, more Slack. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, for coming on the Go for CEO channel. I will say, why don't you share with everybody, the best, website? Are you a LinkedIn person? Do you like DMs? What is the best way to interact with you? And if someone's interested in what they just saw and, working with Brandi AI, what can they do to connect with you?
Yeah, well, visit our website. It's mybrandi.ai. You can request a demo or contact us there. Also, you can follow us on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn, Leah Nurik. Yeah, so those are the best places to find us.
Awesome, Leah. Well, hey, Go for CEO channel. What an experience the last 7 or 8 interviews in this new kind of development. We're all kind of either fearful or excited. And I would glean on you to, lean to say, hey, look, the future looks bright. To me, the possibilities are endless. I keep on using new different tools and I'm discovering things to do, even just on this Go for CEO podcast, like different thumbnails and what tools, and it's making my life a lot easier. Newsletters and all these things that, would have taken hours and hours and hours for marketers, for content creators. Check out Brandi AI. And also, by the way, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Become a Go for CEO community member, and let's keep on growing this thing. So thank you so much, Leah, for coming on the Go for CEO channel.
Thank you.